as he's cutting my hair, all my hair is falling on the floor. And here he is calling his wife, hey, come, feel this hair. And they're touching the hair that had fallen. And then he tells his wife to keep my hair in a jar for them to show everyone else, I guess, when everyone comes to their shop. And basically, I became like a zoo animal. Like, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 116 podcast.
Welcome back.
If this is your first time joining us, please make sure to like, to subscribe, and to keep updated.
Yes.
I have to keep on reminding people this because people forget.
Yeah.
All right. So today, sadly, we don't have any special guests.
Yeah, but that's okay because we were planning on doing a Q&A anyways with just the two of us. So we made a post asking people to send in questions, and so we have some fun questions to answer for you guys today.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah, but let's start with the question that we normally start out with, which is, what is your positive of the week?
So Christmas just passed, and it was great spending time with my family, and also getting a Christmas present from Anita here. It was a lovely Christmas present. I loved it so much. That's right on my wrist.
That's good.
Yeah, that has been positive of the week. Yeah, just being around family, celebrating this festive couple of weeks, I guess now. Yeah, that has been my positive week. What about you?
Kind of similar, yeah. I really enjoyed going home and spending time with my family. I got to bring a friend down with me. Not my boyfriend.
Yeah.
I got to bring down a friend with me. Her name's Fashia. And so it was really nice to have her down with my family for Christmas, and to also just spend time with my family and eat lots and lots of food that I didn't have to cook. It was amazing.
Yes.
Yes.
I definitely got a little bit heavier and chunkier over the Christmas break.
Doesn't everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do our first question. So our first question was, how did you meet? And
We already answered this question.
Answered it, but we can
But it's okay.
we can quickly answer it again. That's fine. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah. Okay.
You want me to start?
Yeah, you start.
Well, we met at a your friend's fundraiser event, Faith. We had her a couple of weeks ago on the podcast.
Yes.
We met at her event. She was doing Miss Universe or Miss Canada. I don't know what.
Miss Universe Canada.
There we go.
Charity event.
Yes, and I happened to be there. I wasn't supposed to be there, but Faith ended up asking me to help her. And I ended up staying and being there, and her Sammy, Faith's boyfriend,
Fiance,
introduced us. Sammy, yes. Shout out to Sammy. Yeah, and that's how we met, and yeah.
Yeah, we started talking, and then Sammy cut us off in the middle of our conversation. But
I think it's because we were made. I don't know. People felt awkward. Maybe I don't know.
Why?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't think so. Anyways,
It is what it is.
Yeah, we didn't talk for a while after that.
Yeah.
And then on Thanksgiving, you found me on Instagram.
Yes.
I popped up on your suggested people to follow.
Yes.
Because my name's not even in my bio, so like you can't type my name and find me on Instagram.
Yeah, she's really hard to find.
Did you even remember my name?
No, I completely forgot her name. Yeah, that was bad.
Anyways, he found me on there, and so honestly, I thought Faith told you to follow me because she had been trying to set us up the whole time.
Oh, no.
I mean, it worked. It worked out great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Faith. But I thought that Faith had told you to follow me. And so the first thing I did was message her, and I was like, did you tell him to follow me? And she was like, what? No, did you follow him back? Follow him back. Message him. And I was like, calm down. Okay. I'll accept his follow request. And so I did. And then we started talking on there, and then you were just trying to be nice, and you were like, hey,
Yeah.
I can give you a tour of the U of A sometime, because I was looking into going back to school after I had finished at Vanguard.
Yeah, I don't typically DM anyone. Like, if I'm known for this, if you shoot me a message, I'm not gonna respond to you at all. And so that was kind of like a I don't know, a random thing. Yeah, honestly, when you asked me, or when we were talking about giving you a tour for the U of A, I was being nice, as you said, but like honestly, didn't really want to at the time. I was just hoping, like, I was just being nice, and then you said you agreed, and yeah, the rest is history.
I agreed, and I set a date so that it would happen.
You're like, next Tuesday. All right.
Yeah, so then he gave me a tour of the U of A. He didn't expect me to show up,
Yes.
but I showed up.
I was ready to go to the library and study.
Yeah, so I got my first tour of the U of A. It was massive and cold.
Yes.
And then we were talking, and we talked about a lot of things.
Yes.
And then you were like, hey, we should continue this conversation somewhere else. You want to go eat somewhere? And I was like, yes. But I didn't know if you were like, oh, let's go eat somewhere, like, let's go to McDonald's. Or like, I didn't know what you were thinking or planning, so I didn't want to decide where. And I was just like, yeah, you decide. And then he took me to Moxie's.
Yes. Looking back now, I didn't really think about, the cultural thing here in Canada. I mean, like with my friends, we just go to any restaurant and eat. And so I didn't think much of it, but I guess she thought something of it.
Anyways, he's making it sound like he never liked me at all.
No,
but
that's not what. No,
I didn't force him into a relationship.
No, that's not it. I thought you were pretty cool, and I was like, oh, she'd be a good friend. But at the time, I wasn't looking for any relationship. I was telling my parents, I'm not gonna be in any relationship or get married until I'm 40. At the time, that didn't last.
No,
and so I just didn't see it that way. I guess it's not that I wasn't interested or whatever, but it was just that I wasn't looking for a relationship, and so. Yeah. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, no, but it's good. I think that mindset and attitude is really good because it wasn't, on my end, I wasn't feeling like pressured in any way. And I also wasn't feeling like weirded out. Like you weren't being obsessive or like weird in any way.
Yeah.
And you could tell you were just being genuine and friendly because at that time you were like, oh, she'd be a cool friend.
Yeah.
Which is a good way to start out relationships. You should start out as friends with someone first. And so, yeah, that's how it started. That's how we met.
Yeah. Don't rush into things, boys.
No. All right. Next question. This is a fun one. Top 10 favorite ethnic dishes that you would eat over and over again. You go first.
Wait, I need to list all 10?
Yes, we'll keep count on our fingers.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have to start with some Ethiopian food first. So it would be some tips. Am I supposed to explain what it is?
Yes, you probably should.
No. I'll just put pictures up. What about that?
Oh, yeah,
that's much
a good
better.
idea.
So some tips. I have some. I'll have some kitfo. Kitfo is one of my favorites as well.
Maybe you should explain that one.
Kitfo is grounded beef. And it's served raw, but it's mixed in with spices and butter. And so, yeah, it's very, savory and like spicy. Yeah. And it's very tasty as well.
Yeah.
Some kitfo. I'll have some, or dorowet, I should say. What else? I can't really think of any other thing. I like, I have no idea. Okay, those three things. Pork on a stick from Thailand. It's literally pork on a stick and it's grilled. And you eat it with some sticky rice. And then kotio, which is dry noodles that a street vendor at my Bible college in Thailand used to make in front.
That's 5.
That's 5.
I
can't think of anything else. Pretty much I'll eat anything. I'm not picky. I'll try anything.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you named 5 of your favorite dishes that you would eat over and over again.
Yes.
How about you name 5 dishes that most people don't eat that you would eat again?
Oh, that I would eat again?
Yeah.
Oh, I had some rat meat in Thailand.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a little bit bony, but I would eat that again.
I don't want to eat meat that's bony.
That was pretty good. Frog legs
Mm.
was pretty good. I've tried a little bit of bugs as well.
What kind of bugs?
Grasshoppers.
Hmm.
Some I don't know what you call them. Mealworms? Is that what you call them?
I think so.
Yeah, and then also some beetles I've tried.
Mm.
They were okay. I'll eat it again, but not like, oh, let me eat it every single day.
Yeah, you're not trying to order it.
No, no, but I'll eat it again.
Mm-hmm.
Other top 10 food. I love pie.
Yes.
Yes, I'll eat pie every single
You'll
day.
eat a whole pie to
Yes,
yourself.
specifically pumpkin pie.
Uh-huh.
And then last,
One more.
I can't really think of anything. I don't know. Some raw meat. There we go.
There's your 10.
Yeah. I'll have some raw meat.
Do you want to explain that for people who are like, huh? What?
It's an Ethiopian thing. It's called resaga, which is just raw meat, and you just cut it up,
Mhm.
and then you dip it in a spice, and you eat it.
What kind of meat? People are probably wondering.
It's beef. It's beef.
It's beef.
Yeah. There's a specific cut of meat that is for that, but I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, don't just grab any
No,
of
no, no.
beef
no,
and
no,
eat
no,
it raw.
No, it has to be fresh.
Yes.
Yes.
His family gets it from specific butchers
Yes,
and a specific
yes.
cut.
Yes. Or else you will get sick.
Yeah.
It's not good for you. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
What about you?
My turn. Top 10. Okay. Well, bannock.
Mm-hmm. What is that?
That is cultural bread.
Okay.
So my mom is Cree,
Okay.
and so it's an indigenous type of bread, and it's really good. So I have to say that.
Okay.
And then going along with that, moose meat. I love dried moose meat.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. You know, you dip it in some lard,
Yes.
and it's really good.
I don't know about the lard, but yes, it's good.
It's good. I actually really love dumplings.
Okay.
I
didn't know
got
that.
to make dumplings in China,
Mm-hmm.
and those were the best ones. And then I also really love spring rolls,
Mm-hmm.
pork kind specifically. I'm not the hugest fan of veggie rolls.
Mhm.
I like there to be like some sort of meat in it, so I like the pork spring rolls.
Okay.
And wow, it's
It's
actually really hard to
yeah.
think of 10.
It is. It's actually very challenging. One more, and then you can just do like 5 of like the least favorite.
Okay, so I don't know what it's called. I feel bad. We ate it yesterday. Your aunt made it.
Oh, some atarkuk, which is
Yes.
chickpea, right?
Uh-huh.
That's cut like in halves,
Uh-huh.
and then it's cooked and it's yellow. And I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, you eat it with injera.
Yeah, you eat it with injera.
It's
That's pretty good.
Ethiopian food. It's
Yes.
really good. I like other Ethiopian foods as well.
Okay.
Oh, I like shiro,
Okay. Sure.
obviously.
Yeah.
That's also another Ethiopian food. We'll put pictures up so you guys can see
Yeah.
them. And then other foods that I've eaten that I would eat again, because it's actually really hard to think of
Yeah.
10 favorites.
Okay.
Well, I have had chicken's feet, and that's actually bony meat as well.
Yeah.
But I think,
It's pretty good.
yeah, it's good. It depends on how it's cooked for me
Exactly.
personally, and like how it's flavored and stuff.
Yeah.
It can actually be really good. And also like it's definitely a mind thing at first. Like you
Yeah.
can think yourself into thinking that it's gross, but it's not. Like honestly, to me, when I ate it, I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of like chicken wings,
Mm.
just smaller.
I think it's there when it's fried. It's much better than when it's boiled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was actually pretty good, and I would try it again. What else? Oh, I had raw meat with you.
Mhm.
I would eat that again. Uh, I showed my family during Christmas a picture of what his family was eating for Christmas, and it was a lot different than what my family was eating.
Yeah.
I showed them all, and I was like explaining what some of the things were, and I showed them. I was like, "This is their turkey. This is raw meat."
No.
I was joking, but anyways, they were like, "What?" And one of them was like, "I wouldn't eat that," and I was like, "Well, you know what? It's all in your mind again."
Yes.
I was like, the first time I ate it, I wasn't grossed out because I was like, this is like really rare steak.
Mhm.
And when you think of it like that, like it's not bad. And
Mm-mm.
again, like you eat it with spices and everything like that, and it tastes good.
Yes.
But again, don't go eating random
No,
pieces of raw meat, please.
Absolutely
Don't.
not. Don't do that.
No.
We do not recommend.
Oh wait, you know what? I actually really love shrimp.
Shrimp. Okay.
Yeah, like just shrimp.
Mhm.
I like certain kind of sushis.
Okay.
Those are really good.
One more.
One more. Let me think.
Can't really think of anything.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. You know, I also really like pie,
Pie. Yes.
but I don't like pumpkin pie.
Mm.
I'm sorry,
That's so
I
sad.
don't.
You're missing out.
No, it's just more for you. I like apple pie
Mhm.
or rhubarb pie. That's really good.
Yes.
Yeah. Fun fact: I don't like cake. So for my birthdays, I'll have pie
Yeah.
or ice cream cake. I love ice cream.
Yes.
That's the other thing I love. I love ice cream.
There you go.
Yes. All right, next question. Where did the idea of starting a podcast come from?
Came from me, I guess.
Yeah, because before we started this podcast, had never crossed my mind.
Mhm.
I never crossed my mind.
I always wanted to start a podcast. I think in my first year of Bible college, I want to say that's when the idea of starting a podcast came by. It was my brother and I that actually we wanted to start a podcast together, but one, didn't have the resources, and two, didn't have the time to start.
Mhm.
And so we kind of just left it at that. And then when I came back to Canada from Thailand and starting school here, I was like, you know what? Let me start a podcast by myself. I recorded one episode and I was like, I am not uploading this. This is an absolutely gone show. Like, no
Oh,
way.
no.
Yeah. I wasn't good at it.
Mm.
I needed help, but I didn't know who to start a podcast with. I didn't want to start it alone because maybe some of you don't know, but it's a lot of work that goes into getting these episodes out, and
Yeah.
a lot of editing, a lot of just a lot of stuff that goes into it. And so I didn't feel confident doing it alone, and I couldn't find anyone else to help me.
Mhm.
And so I just waited, and then finally you came along. I introduced the idea to you early on.
Yeah.
I think like almost a year ago.
Mhm.
But it was just an idea, and then things came along, and I want to say like in August. In August was
Yeah.
when we really put 10 toes down and got into it, and
Started getting all the equipment.
yes, starting getting all the equipment. It took about 3 months to get everything together.
Mhm.
We started in August
Yeah.
and finished in October, end of October. So yeah, but yeah, it came from that. I feel like there's a lot to be shared, and I feel like we can, help, or I shouldn't say help, but I should say develop people through conversations.
Yeah.
We know a lot of people that have stories to
Mhm.
tell, some great stories, and so I thought it would be a brilliant thing to do, and to help people through different circumstances that they're going through, to see what God has done in other people's lives, and to say that God can do the same in their lives too.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's where it started from.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah. I want to ask the next question.
Go for it. The next question is
that's
actually for me
you.
too.
Yeah. How did you decide where to go on your internship?
So, in my third year at Vanguard, I had to do an internship overseas because I was in the missions program doing intercultural studies. And so I originally planned to go to Kenya. Yeah, I was even in contact with the missionaries that I would have been down there doing ministry with. I had sent them emails. They had been responding to me. But I don't know, something was just kind of off. I wasn't excited about going at all. And I just thought maybe like, oh, maybe it's because this is my first time traveling overseas alone or like doing a missions trip alone. So I just thought probably because I'm nervous or something. But it was to the point where like I wasn't even telling people that like I had plans and this is what I was going to do. I didn't tell anyone unless they directly asked me like, so where are you going for your internship? Then I would tell them. But I hadn't told anyone like how I was feeling about this internship because again, I was like, well, I don't want to be negative. Like maybe maybe I'm just scared, but it's fine. I'll get over it. And then I was back in school for the fall semester of my third year, and Brian and Val, who are the mission directors at Vanguard, were teaching a class that I was in, and at the end of the class, I was about to leave, and Val actually came up to me, and she was like, oh, can I, like, talk to you for a second? I was like, oh, sure. And the first thing she says is, if you're feeling, like, kind of unsettled about your missions trip to Kenya, like, I have a really good option for you that you might really enjoy. And I was like, what? How do you know? I was like, what? I was like, well, what's this option? And she told me about an opportunity in Ethiopia to go down there. Brian and Val are actually missionaries in Ethiopia still. And so they have like a base down there and they do a whole bunch of different types of ministry things. And so they said I could go down there. There would be a place for me to stay. And I would actually be helping Teresa, which is their daughter, and someone else who lives down there named Mercy, help develop one of their ideas, which was to create children's curriculum for like Sunday schools and also music to go along with that. And I was like, what? It sounded amazing. It was right up my alley. But because I had already been in contact with the missionaries from Kenya, I was like, oh no, I can't, like, I'm already talking to them. Like, I don't want to go back on the plans that I have, but I don't feel good about the plans that I have. Anyways, I was very stressed for a while. I kind of overthought it. I called my dad. My dad ended up saying, what do you really want to be doing? What did you say before that you didn't want to do? And I told him, and he's like, that's what you'd be doing in Kenya. And I was like, you're right. I don't know why I'm overthinking this. This option for Ethiopia is obviously better. And so I went with that option. And later on, Val ended up telling me, oh, Kate's coming with you. And I was like, I know of her. I haven't talked to her before. But anyways, I ended up meeting Kate, and she's an amazing person. We're going to have her on this podcast at some point. And it worked out so well. Our skills and giftings were very different, but they meshed so well together, and I think we worked really well together. We lived really well together. It was super nice having her with me because we were able to do more things independently, go places, like get our own groceries without having to rely on someone to drive us. We could just walk because there was two of us.
Two white girls that stick out like a sore thumb are walking around alone in Ethiopia. Who thought that was a great idea?
We weren't walking that far. Okay.
Still, I don't know.
Anyways, the Lord protected us. And one of her skills and giftings is actually writing. And so she took on a big chunk of writing the curriculum. And then I took on more of the musical part and putting melodies and stuff to songs. And we actually got to record the music. And it was really, really amazing. I enjoyed that trip. Yeah. And then it was after that trip that we met. Yeah, like, was it almost a year after that trip, I think we met. No,
because you were in Ethiopia in 2020 when we met in 2020 in November. Or no, September.
But I came back at the end of March.
Yeah, it wasn't a year.
Oh, more than half a year?
Maybe, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
But cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was that story.
I didn't go on an internship like that.
Because you were already overseas. You were in
Yeah,
Thailand in
that's
Bible
true.
college.
That's true. That was my trip.
All right. Next question. I'll ask you first.
Okay.
What is your most embarrassing cross-cultural experience?
Ooh, I have a good one. Okay. So in Thailand, my brother and I were the only black people. That's what it felt like. The only black people in Thailand. The whole time we were there, I don't even remember seeing a black person. Yeah, my uncle and my cousin who came to visit once. That was pretty much it. Like, it was so rare to see black people. And so because of that, the barbershops don't know black people and black people hair, you know? Our hair is different. A little bit crunchy.
Crunchy.
It's crunchy. Not smooth, you know? It doesn't fall down, you know?
Yeah.
And so this was in my first year. Yes, in my first year, I went to this barbershop. Mind you, at this point, like, I haven't gotten a haircut for like 5 months, 6 months. So like my hair is just going crazy. And so I went to this barbershop that was nearby, and he's like, "What do you want?" We could barely communicate. I was just like, I know simple words, and I think I took someone with me as well. But anyways, I ended up showing him a picture of the haircut I want. It was a simple like fade. And then he started cutting my hair. Clearly it was his first time cutting black people, and so he did not cut my hair, but I would rather say shaved my head. It was bad. But anyways, he cut my hair, and he goes to line up my hair, and he ends up lining up my hair like back here. And it was bad. But then, you know, as he's cutting my hair, all my hair is falling on the floor. And here he is calling his wife, hey, come, feel this hair. And they're touching the hair that had fallen. And then he tells his wife to keep my hair in a jar for them to show everyone else, I guess, when everyone comes to their shop. And basically, I became like a zoo animal, like someone like where everyone comes and looks at me and kind of touches my hair. But yeah, that was my most embarrassing experience.
Yeah. Your hair is just sitting in a jar in some barber shop.
Yeah. I hope they threw it out by now.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
You know, you probably gave them so much business. So many people probably came to see. I'm sure word spread.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Come check out this curly hair.
But then after seeing my hairline, I'm pretty sure they're like, I don't know about going there again. You know, it was pretty bad.
You should put in a picture of your hairline.
No, I'm not doing that. Absolutely not.
Okay. All right. My most embarrassing cross-cultural experience. I have a good story. So in my first year at Vanguard, we got to go to China at a university, and we got to teach English there. It was a really amazing experience. And there was a team of 5 of us who went down, and during like the lunch breaks, we would go to the cafeteria. We were encouraged to like spend as much time as we could with the students, make friends with them. And so while I was in the cafeteria for lunch with a student, another random student came up to me, and she wasn't an English major, so she didn't really know English at all. But she was trying to communicate with me, and she was showing me these pictures on her phone, and she I guess was a design student, and she had made a dress. It was a really pretty blue dress, and like she was like trying to explain it. There was another person there who was trying to help translate, and basically what I got out of the conversation was she made this dress for an assignment, but then she had to have a model to wear it, and then she had to take pictures and then put it in a presentation for an assignment. And she ends up saying that her model canceled, and she wanted me to model the dress.
Oh no.
She wanted me to model the dress. And I am a smaller person in Canada.
Canada.
Not in Asia. And I just knew by looking at the dress, it's not going to fit me. Like, there's no way it's going to fit me. And so I ended up like politely saying that, like, oh, it's really pretty, but like, I don't think it'll fit. And like, I don't really have time. Like, yeah, sorry, and kind of left it at that. And like, I left. And then I think it was the next day, another person on my team, Marianne, got a message from a student that we had taught. And so we knew this student. His name was Ryan. And he was sending voice messages because it was easier to send that than type. And he was asking about me. And we had to listen to the message a couple times, and we figured out he actually knew the girl who had made the dress and who had talked to me in the cafeteria. And the girl had asked him to contact me to see if I would meet up to wear this dress.
Oh no.
And so they're communicating, and I ended up being like, well, I don't think they understand that the dress is not gonna fit. And so I like told them that, and they were like, well, how about we just measure you? And I was like, okay, well, I can do that, because then they'll see it won't fit, right?
Yeah.
And so me and Marianne went together to meet up with these students to measure myself. And we were like outside of this building, and it was in the evening, and she has like a measuring tape, and so she comes and she measures me, and I saw like the size of the dress written out, and I watched as she measured me, and I was like, yep, not gonna fit. And then she ends up going, it's okay, we'll try it on. And I was like, what? But it's not gonna fit me, it's not gonna fit me. And so they were very persistent. And so I ended up being like, okay. And so the group of us went into the school building, into like the area where the design students are, I guess. And they were like sewing. There was other students in there. It was like after hours, and there was other students in there sewing. I walk in, everyone looks at me, and I was like, please don't look at me. She pulls out the dress, and it's a beautiful dress. It was really beautiful. And she hands it to me. She's like, try it on. And I was holding the dress still in front of everyone in this classroom, and I was like, you want me to try it on right here? And she's like, try it on. And I was like,
no.
You really want me to try it on? Like, can I go to a different room, a private room?
Oh, no.
And so they were like, oh, okay. So they take me to another classroom that was empty. I tried it on. It did not fit. It did not fit at all. It wouldn't zip up at all. And so I was like, well, I'll show them. Like, it doesn't fit. So I walk out and I show them. It doesn't fit. And they were really determined. She comes behind me and she tries zipping it up.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, it's really not gonna fit. You're gonna break your zipper. Like, please stop. And so she ends up like being like, okay, yeah, it's not gonna fit. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, if it fit, like, I would let you take pictures of it, but it doesn't fit. And anyways, to capture the moment, Marianne took pictures. So we actually have pictures of me modeling this dress that didn't fit. No. And it's a really funny story now, but at the time it was really embarrassing.
Wait, you had to stand in front of all the students with that not fitting you?
I stepped out into the hallway because they had put me into another classroom to change, and I just stepped out in the hallway, and then like some of the students came out into the hallway.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah, just a little. But anyways, it's funny now.
Okay, let me ask this question. Most impactful cross-cultural ministry experience?
Do you want me to answer it first?
Yes, you answer it first.
Okay. This was also while I was in China. So later on in that trip, I went to a different place in China. At this point, we went to Nanning, and we spent the day at a leprosy colony. And so it was a lot of older people who were just living together in this leprosy colony. And we went that day, my team again, there was, how many of us were on that team? I think there was like 6 of us or 7 of us. And then our professor at the time, PA, amazing man, he had been there like, I think it was like 21 years consecutively.
Whoa.
Before us, before that trip. That's how many times he had been, like every single year, because that's how long he was a professor at Vanguard, and they did this trip to China every year. And so he knew the people there. And so that was why he came with us that day, is to like show us around, for us to meet people. to hold a service. And so we show up, and our translator wasn't able to make it. And yeah, we had learned basic Mandarin, but they spoke Cantonese.
Okay.
So like the basic stuff that we knew, like we couldn't even use, like we couldn't be polite and say like, oh, my name is this and that, right? We couldn't communicate with them at all. And so we get there, there's no translator, and we're like, oh, well, what do we do? Like, oh well. And PA was like, well, we're still gonna hang out. And we're like, okay, cool. And so we were gonna place all our baggage, because we were carrying all our baggage that day. And like team bags, we had team bags that we would carry around with us. I carried around a guitar all over China. And so we needed a place to set them, and they had a building, a church building actually. And we wanted to communicate with one of the people there, like, can we put our stuff in there? Like, can you unlock the building? And so they unlocked the building for us. We put our stuff in, and as we're setting our stuff down, this person starts ringing a bell, like a giant bell. He's ringing this bell, and I was like, what is that? Like, what's happening? And our professor goes, oh, that means that everyone is going to come here, and we're going to have a service right now.
Whoa.
I was like, right now? Like, we hadn't planned the service. Like, what we were told the morning of was, like, we will probably do a service at some point in the day, but, like, we'll have time in the middle of the day to, like, plan something. And we get there, no translator, put our stuff down, and service immediately. Yeah, so that's the one thing about missions. You have to be flexible.
Yes, very.
And adaptable and think fast. And so that's what we did. We planned something out. What we did was we did a song, and then a skit, and then one of our leaders read Psalms 23 in English, obviously. So that's what we ended up doing. I actually was given a whole bunch of like music sheets, and at the beginning of the trip, I lost them, except for like 4 songs that were still in my guitar case. So I had 4 songs to choose from. So I chose some songs, and since I was the one with the guitar, I played the guitar and sang, and someone else sang with me. And anyways, we were all like, how is this gonna go? Like, this is gonna be really interesting. Like, we don't understand what each other's saying. And so we do this service, and by the time we get to our leader reading Psalms 23, people in the building were crying, and she started crying, and you could feel the presence of God in the building. And that was the day where it really became real to me that God is above all language barriers.
Yep, that's so true.
And you don't need to read the scripture in a certain language for it to still be powerful, for it to still have impact over people. God's word is living and powerful. Yes. And it was such a cool experience to be a part of and to see. And after that, we got to spend time with people. Our professor was like, pick someone and follow them home and hang out with them all day.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to clean up though, so by the time I was done, there was no one in the building. But my professor was there, and a couple other students who also were cleaning. And so we followed our professor around while he went and like greeted everyone that he knew, because again, he had been there 21 years previous. And so we were going around greeting people, and he told us like, just pray, and whatever house you feel to stay at, like, I'll leave you there. Wow. And so before we walked into this one house, I was like, this is the house that I'm going to stay at. So we walk in the house, and there's no one there. And I was like, oh, was this supposed to be the house I was supposed to stay at? And he was like, no, wait, like, let's go further back. If we go further back, that's where the kitchen is. So we walk in, and there was someone in the kitchen. And my professor was like, oh, perfect, you can help him cook. And I was like, I don't know how to cook. I don't even know what he's cooking. Like, what? And he was like, no, just like watch what he's doing and then take it from him and do it. And I was like, no. And he goes, no, look. The guy was like chopping something. We found out later his name was Mr. Pei, and he was chopping something, and he was watching him for a while, and then he went and he took the knife from him and started chopping for him. Wow. And so then he continued and did something else. And so he was like, just like that, do it just like that. And then he left. And I was like, okay, sure. And so that's what I did. At one point he was like stirring something, so I went over to see if I could stir. I don't think I did a good job because he made me sit down. That's so funny. Yeah, he made me sit down.
And then you're getting in my way. Please sit down.
Yeah, probably. And then he started feeding me oranges for majority of the time that we were there cooking. Well, he was cooking. He handed me an orange. I finished it, and then he handed me another one. I finished it, and then he handed me another one, and that's when I realized he's not going to stop, so I should eat these slower.
Yeah.
So I ate them very, very slow. And then he finished cooking, and he was communicating with me, like trying to tell me to leave. I was like, wait, what? But then he was telling me to come back. So then I figured out, oh, he wants me to go get the other people on my team because he made so much food. And so I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. So I left, and I found as many people on my team that I could. Some people had already eaten, or they were spending time with other people. So not everyone on the team could come, but like a good handful of us came back to the house, my professor included, PA, and he brought all the food outside under this like canopy, and then he served us, and he put all this food out, and it was really amazing. We got to very nice guy. We got to eat with him, and while we were sitting there eating, I remember this one thing that PA said. He said, this is what I think heaven is going to be like. It's like, it doesn't have to be like everything is gold and we're eating like the most expensive, like crazy meal. Because honestly, we were eating rice, cabbage, snails, and I think there was something else. But he ended up saying, I feel like this is what heaven is going to be like, because this is us being together. This is us having community. He said this is genuine. This is fellowship.
Yeah.
And so it was a really beautiful experience, really impactful experience, and definitely my favorite day in China during that Asia trip.
I love how you subtly mentioned that you were eating snails like it was nothing. What?
It's not normal to us, but
Yeah.
in other places they eat it all the time. So. Yeah.
I would say my most impactful would be, so like every year at my Bible college, we would do a jungle trip. We'd go to the jungle and do ministry there, and we would also like build stuff. And so one of the years we were building like a guest house type of thing. And so the way it works is like in the morning we work, so from like 7 a.m. until I don't know, like 5:30, 6 p.m. we would work, and then we would quickly come onto the where we were staying, which is like outside in a tent. And we would quickly grab food, and then we would go back up and go to the church that was in the village, and we would do ministry there. And so that was what we were doing for most of the time. But one day we decided to go to this nearby village to do the ministry instead. And so we got there, and they don't have anything. And so, but what they had prepared was like they put tarps on the floor, and then that's where all the kids came and sat down, and then all the parents were like standing around that place. And so, typically like we record stuff when we go and do ministry in these kind of places, but I mean it's like pitch black by the time we got there, and so we couldn't record or anything. So we got there, and here are all the kids sitting on the floor, and we have like skits prepared, songs prepared, and stuff like that. And then like just seeing like all these kids, like probably their first time worshiping as well. And so like, through our ministry there, like God really used us to, people accepted Christ then as well, and like came to Christ, and like watching how God can move, as you said, like even through language barrier was such an awesome thing. And it was so impactful for me because like it showed me that, it's not only by what I say, but it's by what I do that God can work through. And so like I could sit here and talk all I want about how God is good, and like just talk about his words and stuff like that, but to actively live it out, and like to go into these places and like to feed people, to play games, to interact with them, they've never had this type of opportunity, right, as well. And so like it was such an eye-opening moment for me, because like, you know, God can work through anything, even if there is this massive language barrier. And that was such an impactful moment for me. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. Okay, next question. Most challenging part of going overseas and doing ministry?
Obviously the culture shock. It's hard to articulate, because it's different when you arrive there and you know that you're gonna be there a long time, especially. I know for you it was a short period of time, but I was there for 8 months at a time, and so it was the first couple of days it's fun and all, and then you start missing home, and you're like,
you get past the honeymoon phase.
Exactly. And so for me, by the time like we got there in September, and so by the time it was like Christmas time, I was ready to go home. Right? That's the most challenging part, is missing home and missing food. I think we forget how much we're attached to food.
Yes.
Right? And so when you don't get what you've been getting for the past, you know, whatever, 10 years, 15, 18, 20, 30 years, you know, you start missing it so much. You're like, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go home and eat. I want to be around family and stuff. And that was probably the most challenging part about being overseas, was missing home.
Yeah, I would agree with that, like the culture shock aspect of it, because once you get past the honeymoon phase and you're like, oh, things are really different here, and then you get into like the rejection phase of things, like it's so easy to stay in that phase of culture shock and to stay angry at things and to throw a pity party for yourself. It's really easy to stay like that, and so the hard part is getting out of that. And like,
honestly,
and like changing your attitude. That's the biggest part. It's changing your attitude and your outlook, and working really hard to get past that and to get into the acceptance phase, which is a great phase to be in.
And a lot of people, like when they're out in these mission trips, you know, especially if they're first time, if they're a first timer, you see a lot of like complaining, a lot of like, I want to go home type of thing. But if you dwell in that kind of like mentality, you really lose out on what God is gonna do through you. You know, because honestly, it should be a life-changing experience for you. And if you're there, like not complaining and just doing what you have to do, man, you'll see God work through you and change you through and through. And so the next question, most rewarding part about being overseas?
I would definitely say the relationships that get built. Putting the effort into building relationships with people when you go overseas will make or break your experience.
Exactly.
It will affect your outlook on the country, because if you don't put in an effort to build relationships, you end up feeling super lonely and isolated, because you're in a place where you may not know the language at all, you're not used to the food, you're not used to the way of life, the culture itself. But once you build relationships and friendships, you have people who are there to support you, you have people who you can talk to, you have people who can show you around, show you the ins and outs, like help you figure things out, help explain things to you. And so building relationships is so important. And then when those relationships continue when you come back, that's really amazing, and that's super rewarding. And then again, just seeing how God moves in these places, and it doesn't even have to be something that you did. Like, I think one thing we need to be wary of when going overseas is thinking like God has to use me and something has to happen through something that I did. And that's not the case. Like, sometimes you go and your purpose is to help the people who are living there, who are already ministering, who already have ministries set up. We don't have to go and set up our own ministry or go and create a revival. Like, that's not really your job when you go overseas to do missions. Your job is to be there to support people, especially if you're doing a short-term trip. Like, your job is to support the church people there, to support the missionaries that are already there, and to do the things that they need help with. And so when I went to Ethiopia with Kate, we were already helping the people there. We were helping them see a vision come to pass, helping them create curriculum. That wasn't our idea.
Yeah.
That was their idea. And it was so amazing to help them do that and to see where they can now take what we started and to expand it, to translate it into Amharic, to see it grow, right? And so that is definitely one of the most rewarding things, is to see what happens after you leave.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to leave a lasting impact,
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that you said, building relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because even like if you're there for even like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
it's so important to build that relationship.
Mhm.
You have no idea what that relationship will do for the other person.
Yeah.
And so like for me, while I was in Thailand, like I tried to be friends with everyone,
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I tried to do there was like opening up my room, like my own space to people.
Yeah.
And so like, for example, we would have my roommate and I would have like basically all of our classmates in our room, and like people would sleep over and like just have fun in our room, to the point that sometimes we would walk into our room and people will be there and we won't be there, and they'll turn on our air cons and everything, right? But it's so important to share your space, share your knowledge, and be in relation with people, like have a relationship with people, and make it a goal to build that relationship.
Yeah.
And like that's honestly the most rewarding part,
Mm-hmm.
is because these people that you build relationship with, even if at the time they don't do any, or I shouldn't say don't do anything, but aren't doing like crazy things, right? In the future they will be, right? And you want to be part of that as well in the future. And so like even right now I'm still friends with some of my classmates, and I contact them here and there, and like it's so cool to see what God is doing through them, and to share part of their story as well,
Yeah.
And so that has been the most rewarding part for me. Okay, last question. What is God teaching you that you would like to encourage our listeners with?
We finally get to answer this question.
Yes.
We always ask our guests, but we don't answer it. So we get to answer it today. What has God been teaching me? Well, a couple of days ago, I was doing a devotional, and it was about redeeming your time and using your time wisely, and like also prioritizing rest and things like that, which I need to work on. But it was really good. And anyways, one thing that stood out to me was in the devotional, it said something along the lines of like, doing nothing with your time is also a sin. Like you could be doing horrible, awful things and sinning with your time.
Yeah.
Or you could be doing absolutely nothing. And doing nothing is different from resting. And so when I read that, I immediately thought of the parable of the servants with the talents, and how the one servant didn't use his talents at all.
Yeah.
And he hid them and buried them. And then when his master came back, he was like, here you go. I didn't do anything with it. I buried it.
Yeah.
Whereas the other servants, they had used their talents and multiplied them. And they had something to give back to their master. And so I immediately thought of that, and I was like, oh wow. Like I've heard that parable many times, but I was like, oh, it really came to life. Like I see it now. I understand it better. And so that made me think about what am I not doing with the gifts that God has given me that I should be doing something with? Like, am I hiding certain things, burying them because I'm scared? Because that first servant was scared.
Yeah.
And I realized I was, which is actually why I told you the one day, okay, I'm ready to start the YouTube channel, because it was the day after I had done that devotional, and I was like,
okay.
by doing nothing, I'm not being a good steward of the gifts that God has given me. I'm not being a good steward of my time. And so I agreed to,
we started another channel.
Another one.
It's called Whole Worship.
Yes.
And so it's
WHOLE worship.
It's where we'll be doing a lot of singing, a lot of worshiping.
Yes.
And so we hope it becomes a platform where people different groups of people can come on and share their gifts and worship with the nations.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And so for me, what God has been teaching me, I would say the power of thoughts. I've been speaking a lot about this to Anita lately. But how our thoughts are really who we are and who we become, right? And so, meaning if you change your thoughts, you can change yourself, right? And you can develop yourself, you can grow yourself, you can get to a greater place. And so, a lot of us struggle with negative thoughts. Even I struggle with negative thoughts, but it's important to make sure that we don't our negative thoughts don't take stronghold of us.
Yeah.
There's this great book that I'm forcing Anita to read as well.
Almost done.
It's called The Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Myers. And in her book, she talks about how our thoughts, our mind is really the battlefield.
Yep.
And she talks about the Israelites as they were coming out of Egypt, going into the wilderness, as God is leading them into the wilderness. An 11 days journey turns into 40 years journey.
Yes.
Matter of fact, the first generation that walked out never made it to the promised land.
Nope.
Right? They all perished in the wilderness. And the reason that happened was because of their thoughts, their negative thoughts. Always complaining, always saying, what the heck, why are we in the wilderness for this long?
Yeah.
Not willing to move and to go forward. And so, just seeing that it's crazy how your thoughts will hinder your progress.
Yes.
How your thoughts will stop you right there and then. Right? There's this story where a man goes to fix a freezer, and he goes in the freezer to fix it, and the freezer door shuts behind him, and so he's stuck in the freezer and he's banging and yelling. No one could hear him, and so he starts freaking out, as anyone would. And so he said he started feeling cold, and he started writing notes to his family saying that he's freezing to death, that he can't feel his feet, he can't feel his fingers, and all this he's writing. And a couple of days later, when people came and opened the next day when people came to and opened the freezer, this man was found dead inside. But the man went in to fix the freezer, so meaning the freezer was never cold.
It was broken.
It was a broken freezer. The room temperature in there was a normal room temperature. It wasn't it wasn't a freezing place. And so what that is like your mind could go to that extent. To your negative thoughts can go to that extent to where you die.
Yep. Remember, sorry to cut you off, but problem. We saw, I think it was a TikTok yesterday, and these people were doing this test. They had their arm out and they had a laser pointing down, and it would make noise when they turned it on. And the people conducting this test told them that it would give them a stinging feeling, and the pain level would increase as they increased the level of this machine that they were using on them. And so they started at level 1, turned it on, and then they asked the patient how they were feeling, what sort of things were they feeling, and then at the end told them on the scale of 1 to 10, where was your pain level. And these people were feeling pain. They were describing it's tingling. Oh, it's kind of burning now. It's shooting up my arm. They were explaining these things, and they were going to the point where it was I'm feeling an 8 on the pain scale of 1 to 10. And turns out this was actually not a real laser. It was literally just the light that didn't do anything. But people were having reactions to it. People were crying because they were in pain. A pain that they thought themselves into, right?
Exactly. And so, God has been really showing me, in different areas where I talk negatively to myself, to really to start eliminating those, to catch myself and to say, no, that's not who I am. That's not who I'm gonna be.
Yeah.
Who I'm gonna be is this, and declaring the word of God over myself. You know, and so like making sure that I do that kind of thing in my life has been something that God has revealed to me and that I'm doing right now, and I'm encouraging everyone else to do the same, is to really catch yourself when you're doing these kind of things and change them to positive. And so I hope that encourages you guys.
Yes.
But anyways, we're done here. Thank you for listening. We hope you guys enjoyed. We'll continue to do these just us podcasts.
Yeah.
I think that they're great.
Yeah.
But for those of you who asked these questions, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. We hope we'll see you soon. We love you. We care for you. Bye.
Bye.